Well, very good afternoon. If you've just joined us, we are coming to you live from our studios in Johannesburg. This is Week in Review. It's the program where we review some of the big stories to come out of the week, what has been making headlines, and getting South Africans talking throughout the week. I'm your host, Liesl Wilson. It is just after 1 o'clock. Let's take a look at your top stories for this hour. South Africa records over 10,000 new COVID-19 cases in the latest 24-hour cycle. Basic Education Minister Angie Motshekga due to address the media at 2 p.m. today on the department's COVID-19 response and the pandemic's impact on schooling. Further afield, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has been re-elected for second term of office. And in your sporting action, Lindani Myeni will become the first black South African to race the Tour de France when it gets underway next Saturday. Right now, top story at this hour. Tributes continue to pour in for Zambia's first independent president, Kenneth Kaunda, who passed away on Thursday at the age of 97. While South Africa will officially mourn the passing of the former Zambian president, Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, who for the next 10 days will have national flags flying at half-mast. Now, this was announced by President Cyril Ramaphosa to honor the elderly statesman, who some have described as the architect of Southern Africa's freedom.
President Kaunda, please come forward.
Kenneth Kaunda, revered by many South Africans, a friend to the former South African president, Nelson Mandela. It is for that reason that the country has declared 10 days of mourning.
In remembrance of this great leader who made such a contribution to our freedom, we've decided to declare a period of mourning for 10 days in his memory, and that for the 10-day period, our national flag will fly at half-mast.
The country's former president, who spent time in exile in Zambia, working with former ANC President O.R. Tambo, also a close friend of Kaunda, says he contributed towards the liberation of the nation.
President Kaunda, we count him as one of the architects of a democratic South Africa.
Former President Jacob Zuma, who also knew Kaunda very well, has shared his loss.
An outstanding leader, very humble, a Christian, but who fought against oppression and colonization and played a major role in helping many of us to be free.
Former president of the IFP, Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, who knew Kaunda for many years, also lauded his contribution to South Africa's liberation struggle. Buthelezi says it was Kaunda who planted the seed of forming the IFP in him in the mid-70s after many activists had been forced to flee into exile.
During that visit to him in 1974, he advised me to found a membership-based organization in order to reignite political mobilization in South Africa soil. When I returned to South Africa, I then sought the advice of my own leader, who was Mr. Oliver Tambo, who readily agreed. Thus, I founded Inkatha Nkululeko Yesizwe, the National Cultural Liberation Movement, in 1975.
The SACP has also described the late statesman as exemplary to leaders as well as ordinary people.
He played a very prominent role and also looked after our top leaders, including President Oliver Tambo, to make sure that his issues were attended to urgently all the time. But he was a bedrock for the rest of the liberation forces.
Another party for whom KK's legacy resonates is the Economic Freedom Fighters. The party has lauded his role in educating his people.
He played a very important role in terms of educating his nation because he understood that in the world that he was leading, he needed as many people as possible who have got certified education to understand the dynamics of the world, or to understand how to develop their own communities.
The Congress of the People has also expressed its sadness at Kaunda's passing, describing him as a giant, a commander and a freedom fighter. Natasha Piri, SABC News, Johannesburg.
South Africa's return to level 3 of the national lockdown. President Cyril Ramaphosa made the announcement as the country is grappling with an increasing number of infections of COVID-19 yet again. Now, the president says this will see the country's COVID-19 curfews changing, meaning that the curfew now starts from 10 in the evening and ends at 4 a.m. in the morning. Alcohol sales for off-site consumption will only be permitted from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. from Monday to Thursday, with on-site consumption of alcohol in places like restaurants allowed until 9 p.m. Ramaphosa's announcement came as the country enters the third wave of the coronavirus pandemic.
A third wave of infections is upon us. We have to contain this new wave of infections.
It was only a matter of time before another family meeting. Coronavirus cases now on the rise again.
In view of the rising infections, the Cabinet has therefore decided to move the country to alert level 3. We have received an indication from Johnson & Johnson that it expects to deliver around 2 million vaccines to South Africa by the end of the month, thus replacing those 2 million doses that had to be destroyed.
Under level 3, the curfew will now move to 10 p.m. until 4 a.m. Numbers of people at gatherings has also been reduced.
We each have a responsibility to take the necessary action to protect ourselves and others. It is up to each one of us to limit the risk to ourselves and others.
President Ramaphosa has expressed concern about the rate of coronavirus infections in many parts of the country, especially in Gauteng. He says Gauteng accounts for 2/3 of the new infections and has called on South Africans to go back to basics of wearing masks, washing hands and sanitizing. Ntantla Khatlani, SABC News, Johannesburg.
On another somber note, South African business leader Jabu Mabuza passed away on Wednesday at the age of 63 following COVID-19 complications. The chairman of Sun International, former CEO of Tsogo Sun Holdings and former chairman of Eskom, Telkom and South African Tourism was hailed for his contribution to the business world, his advocacy of South Africa and activism against apartheid. He is survived by his wife Simpiwe, 2 sons and a daughter. Now, SABC News spoke to Professor Maurice Radebe of Wits Business School.
Jabu was a very courageous guy. Jabu would take on anything. And what we're losing, is also, Jabu is an uncelebrated hero or a midwife of our democracy. In 1994, Jabu left most of his business interests and focused on providing administrative and secretarial support for the CODESA. If you look at your own archives on TV, you'll see Jabu moving, shuttling between the delegates that were negotiating there, going and preparing the podium, making sure that the speeches of Nelson Mandela or whoever needs to be speaking is on the podium and it's clean, everything is fine. And that's the humility of the man, being a great leader, but was able to play a saving role in the birth of our democracy.
On Wednesday, National Youth Day was commemorated for the second time in 2 years under strict COVID-19 regulations. A small audience gathered near a sports stadium in Pietermaritzburg during President Cyril Ramaphosa's virtual keynote address.
Some of the country's leading young musicians performed for a handful of guests. Government's theme this year is focused on growing employment for the youth in an inclusive and transformed society. But recent employment statistics released highlighted the concerning reality of youth unemployment. Statistics South Africa says 6 out of 10 young people between the ages of 15 and 24 are unemployed. A small exhibition at the venue showcased some initiatives which help young people find employment. One such venture which government has partnered with is Harambee Youth Employment Accelerator, which helps people find employment and also offers support such as interview preparation. They also provide a platform for young people to look for job opportunities without paying for data. They work with several partners to link job seekers with suitable job placement.
With young people, as you can see at the back, we've got SA Youth, and really what Harambee is doing in that is sort of like powering the network that young people can go to access opportunities to learn and to earn. So we are in partnership with the NYDA and many other partners, and our role is to manage the network where young people can access all of these things that are coming together, and it has to be for free for young people.
The spotlight also fell on those who've started successful business ventures. One young entrepreneur founded a gym for women.
The people I'm employing are young females, so it's youth, and it's female instructors, and also the ladies that help me with my admin and cleaning are also females. And why I only chose to have female instructors is because as female instructors, it's so hard to break the fitness industry because it's so focused on males and how you can't be feminine and strong at the same time.
Success stories like these and the successful implementation of government's new integrated approach are starting points to bring hope to millions of young job seekers.
Well, earlier this week, we brought you the story of thousands of people that have flocked to Guahlati area just outside Ladysmith following the discovery of what looks like diamonds. The area has been abuzz with people from all walks of life, and videos of people digging for what they believe are diamonds have also gone viral on social media. Community members there have been left with questions after reports that a traditional healer stumbled upon what looked like a diamond. Since then, this rural community has been a hive of activity. Some managed to lay their hands on what looked like diamonds, whilst others continue to dig. Pinning their hopes on making a shiny discovery, an estimated 4,000 had gathered on this open piece of land. Authorities have cautioned people to avoid crowded areas, which may be super spreaders of the COVID-19 virus.
So, you feel you've done all the excursions when it comes to local travel? Well, not quite.
Calling all local travelers.
It's time to do travel our way. Discover the wonder that lies in the most remote places. Do entertainment with style. Let us reintroduce you to the African artistic flair. Reawaken your palate for fine dining. All of this on Trends Travel every Saturday at 8:30 p.m.
Welcome back. You are tuned into Week in Review with myself, Liesl Wilson. We continue with stories making headlines throughout the week and what has kept South Africans talking, where just yesterday, Gauteng Education MEC Panyaza Lesufi has condemned the shooting of a primary school principal at a school in Ennerdale. Well, this comes after an unidentified man entered the school premises at Buyani Primary in Finetown, Johannesburg, and fired 7 bullets into the principal's car. Lesufi also passed his condolences to the family.
Panyaza Lesufi says he suspects the school shooting in Ennerdale was a hit. He says this is the 3rd incident of this nature in the area, which have all ended in the death of a principal. This may be connected to the procurement of textbooks, which Lesufi says is overseen by the school governing body. The incident happens after he received an email questioning the qualifications of the principal and the management of the school in March this year.
The manner that we appoint principals must change, because the current format is creating problems for all of us. And the third aspect, obviously, is the caliber of leadership, where people that believe that they can remove you and put themselves there, and they go all out to do whatever that wants to. I know the principal that was removed, that was killed, we had to get another principal outside this community to demonstrate that even if you can kill somebody, it does not mean you are next to take over the post.
The email will now be handed over to law enforcement agencies for investigations. Lesotho hopes the perpetrators of this crime will be brought to book.
There is a lot of things that we have to follow up. There's a lot of people that we have to go and interview and all that and get things going. The other forensic leads that we have to follow is one of those. Others I cannot divulge as to who else we're going to bring in order to win this case.
The schooling program has been suspended until all the children have received counseling. Residents say they fear for their children's lives and are calling for better security at schools. But the department says it does not have the budget to deploy trained security personnel at schools. Mbanenhle Mthethwa, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Well, this week we heard that the State Capture Inquiry is seeking another extension to complete its work. Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, chairperson of the commission, announced on Thursday he would seek an extension until September to allow for a hearing of more witnesses and the completion of the inquiry's report. The commission was due to conclude its work at the end of this month.
Chief Justice Raymond Zondo says the commission into state capture will need until mid-July this year to wrap up oral evidence to finalize its report by the end of August. The commission has submitted an application for an extension in the High Court. Justice Zondo says there's outstanding oral evidence that still needs to be captured before it can wrap up proceedings. President Cyril Ramaphosa is one of the 6 witnesses expected to appear again before the commission. But the president has reportedly indicated that he won't be able to avail himself by the end of this month.
We are going to be applying to the High Court to get more time so that we can complete the work of the commission properly. If the High Court grants us an extension, we will be able to hear the evidence of those 5 or 6 witnesses in July, as well as the evidence of the president, hopefully before or not later than 15 July.
The commission started its work in August 2018 and it was initially set to sit for 180 days. In February this year, it was granted a 3-month extension until June to finalize its report. Nothando Makutulela, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Yesterday also marked the official end of the mourning period for the late Amazulu King Guterres Welithini. Traditional Amazulu Prime Minister Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi addressed at the Kwakangela Mankengane Royal Palace in Nongoma.
This ceremony signifies the end of the official mourning period and enables the late King's widows to set aside their mourning dresses. The scheduled dates were 16th, 17th, and 18th of June, 2021. Unfortunately, His Majesty the King, King Misuzulu, subsequently became indisposed, which drew these dates into question. I was surprised, therefore, when I contacted Her Majesty the Queen Mother on the 16th of June to find that she was with members of the royal family, and she opened her cellular phone, who included Prince Mbonisi, Princess Lindy, Prince Vulindela, Prince Mkolisi. I've forgotten who else was present, and that a decision had been taken to go ahead with the cleansing ceremony in the absence of the king. Because I thought there had been agreement that yes, the cleansing of the widows was going to go ahead as separate from the king. So this created a serious problem as part of the ceremonies following the passing of a king, that the washing of the king's weapons are central. There is no way that this can take place when the heir himself is not present, for there is no one else qualified to take the king's weapons to be cleansed in his absence. When I pointed out this to Her Majesty the Queen Mother, she made an announcement to the members of the royal family who were with her at that time that the ritual hunt to cleanse the king's weapons would not proceed in the absence of the king. The two ceremonies would be separated, and the hunt would only be done with His Majesty the King's authority and participation. With this understanding, the cleansing ceremony for His Majesty's widows continued.
In news further afield now, Antonio Guterres has been reappointed by the UN General Assembly for the second 5-year term. He has served as the world's top diplomat since 2017 and will now remain at the helm of the global organization until the end of 2026. Guterres addressed the Assembly just shortly after being sworn in.
I count on your full support for the thus much-needed next iteration of the United Nations. Third, in the UN 75 Declaration, you have given me a mandate to report back to you on how to advance our common agenda to respond better to the current and future challenges. You did this in the realization that something fundamental has to change. And indeed, I sense there is a momentum for some of the most profound transformations to take place. Let us seize it together. In a world that has changed so much, the promise, principles and values of the UN Charter endure. But we also have to work together in entirely new ways to keep its promises alive. The UN is an intergovernmental organization, and it harnesses the unique collective power of states in a world where they remain the publicly accountable actors with the responsibility to shape our policy options. But in a world where the levers of change lie in many hands, the UN and the states and people it serves can only benefit from bringing others to the table. Civil society, cities, the private sector, and young people, to name a few, are critical voices that must be heard in a context of true gender equality. They have essential capabilities and insights that we have to tap if we are to forge a path towards a more peaceful and prosperous future.
The lawyers representing the family of Lindani Myeni have released never-before-seen camera footage that they believe confirms the narrative that he went to the wrong address in search of a Hindu temple in Hawaii and that he posed no threat to anyone. Myeni was shot by US police responding to a 911 call of an alleged burglary in progress at a residential rental property in Honolulu. Now, the footage released is from the doorbell camera positioned at the front of the residence, whilst hours of police body cam video, which was also released by the Honolulu Police Department under court order. Attorney Jim Bickerton says they're still analysing the bulk of the footage, but that the doorbell video footage provides further context to the events that led to his death.
Lindani believed he was visiting a temple. He's wearing his umkele. He takes off his shoes. You see all of that. You see his approach. He introduces himself. You can hear him say hello as he walks in the door. The woman has confirmed that he said he's Lyndon from South Africa. The video shows us that he left within less than 40 seconds and apologized. As he left, though, he heard a strange thing happening, which is the woman announcing to someone who I guess he wouldn't know who she was talking to, but she's pretending to phone someone saying, "Hello, someone just broke into my house," which is very scary words to hear if you've just mistakenly visited the wrong property.
Let's take a look at some sporting action now. Lindani Myeni will become the first black South African to race the Tour de France when it gets underway next Saturday. Well, he has been named in the Qhubeka ASOS team for the most prestigious cycle tour in the world. Team Qhubeka ASOS announced an 8-rider team for the 2021 Tour de France, and it is the 7th time the UCI World Tour team will compete at the Tour, having first lined up back in 2015. The team has won 7 stages and worn the yellow, green and polka dot jerseys. Myeni's selection is a landmark moment for South African cycling.
I honestly still can't believe it, but yeah, I think I've come to terms. I just came back from a 4.5-hour ride, and I think I had plenty of time to sort of take it in and actually realize that now is the moment, you know, and it's finally happening. And yeah, I think I'm very blessed to also to be able to do the Olympics and the Tour de France in 1 year. Obviously, after the incident a year and a half ago, yeah, I mean, I almost thought at that point, yeah, I wasn't going to do either of them. So, yeah, to bounce back and be able to do both of them is absolutely something I never really imagined that it also happened so soon.
Well, that is all from the Week in Review team for today. We'll be back with you tomorrow for a look at the week ahead. But from myself, Lisa Wilson, and the team, it is goodbye for now.
Hi, my name is Ulrich Hendricks and I report for the SABC from the Northern Cape. Now, as part of our job, we meet a lot of people that we interview. We go into a lot of places. And to keep safe from the coronavirus, we sanitize, we social distance, and very importantly, we mask up always. Now, this is to protect us and others. And as a COVID survivor, one of the fears that I have is that I will spread it to the next person and even to my family.
Hashtag cover up.
A strong focus on Africa, but with a reach all around the globe.
For SABC News, I'm Coletta Wanjohi in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
Sarah Kimani, SABC News in Nairobi, Kenya.
SABC News' international desk, your go-to for the latest breaking stories from global capitals to rural hotspots, honing in on newsmakers and their multilateral implications.
The biggest challenge Africa is facing is vaccine issue.
Corruption is not only immoral, but is a serious crime.
America is finally on the move again.
From the inner workings of the United Nations, its peacekeeping missions, and the world economy.
Progress in ending the health crisis could add almost $9 trillion to global GDP by 2025.
A rapid, global and equitable vaccine rollout is the best stimulus plan we have for the strong and sustained economic recovery that we all need.
To the global climate and health emergencies.
The world has come together as never before to take on this crisis.
China supports its vaccine companies in transferring technologies to other developing countries.
Or simply news that matters. We've got you covered.
For SABC News, I'm Michael Baleke reporting from Kampala, Uganda.
For SABC News, I'm Kate Fisher reporting from Washington.
For SABC News, I'm Ira Spitzer reporting from San Francisco, California.
For SABC News, I'm Sherman Bryce Pease at the United Nations in New York.
The SABC News International Desk, independent and impartial.